Today I'm going to walk you through 3 of the most common mistakes that I see with the single leg hip thrust, all right? And the first one I'm going to talk about is pushing too much with your arms, okay? And this is probably the most common one that I see on a regular basis that most people don't even realize they're doing. So when you get set up for the single leg hip thrust, and we start with your butt on the floor, actually your butt's not going to be on the floor, your butt's going to be slightly above the floor, upper back on the bench, and your arms are going to be out here, okay? But a lot of times people will make a mistake where as they come down and then come up, they're actually going to be pushing in with their arms. And sometimes you can see that with their elbows are bent, they're really driving their elbows in. And what that does is it takes a lot of the load off your hips, and you essentially aren't going to be using your glutes as effectively as you could be. So instead of driving your elbows into the bench, let your arms come out fully and try and just let all of the weight rest on your upper back. Let none of the weight be in your arms. So that's going to look like it's just a normal single leg hip thrust, but now I can actually wiggle my fingers, my elbows are up off the bench, and all the weight is in my upper back, and I'm getting all of the movement through my glutes, okay? So that's the first mistake that I see with the single leg hip thrust. The second mistake is hyperextending the lower back, okay? And when you hyperextend the lower back, or you just really overarch it, again, you're not going to be using your glutes as effectively as you could, and you're not going to be getting the most out of the movement. So what that looks like is you'll see someone doing the hip thrust, and they'll be here, they'll be arched. So as they come up, they're not going to be getting a lot of hip extension, it's going to be more lower back hyperextension. So they'll be here, their ribs are flared up, the chest is really tall, and to fix that, all I want you to do is get your ribs down and do the exact same thing. So the movement comes from here, not from here. And the third and final mistake that we see with the single leg hip thrust is just not using your glutes as effectively. And this can come from driving through the toes, right? If your heel's coming up off the floor, or even if you are driving through the heel properly, people just don't focus on actually feeling the glute. And a very easy way to feel it is to use an internal cue. So essentially I just come up, touch my butt and make sure it's contracting, come back down, come up, touch my butt, make sure it's contracting. And a lot of times that feedback with your own hand touching your butt is enough to recruit more muscle fibers and get more out of the movement. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave below.